Writing about objects in storytelling can be a powerful way to add depth to your narrative. Objects can symbolize themes, represent character development, or drive the plot forward. Here are some tips on writing objects into your stories effectively. Symbolism. Assign deeper meanings to objects to symbolize larger themes. For instance, a locket might represent love lost or the burden of a secret. Be subtle with symbolism. It's often more powerful when discovered than when explicitly explained. Character connection. Use objects as a reflection of a character's personality or background. A character's choice of clothing, for example, can speak volumes about their status, tastes, or emotional state. Objects can also represent a character's evolution. A soldier's worn-out boots might signify the long journey he's endured. Sensory details. Describe objects using sensory details to make them feel real. Talk about the texture, color, weight, and smell to create a vivid picture in the reader's mind. Sensory details can evoke emotions in the reader, making the object more memorable. Plot devices. Objects can be central to the plot. A mysterious key, a missing letter, or a forbidden book can all serve as catalysts for action. Ensure that objects which are important to the plot are introduced early on and are integrated seamlessly into the story. Cultural and historical significance. Objects can be used to ground your story in a particular time or place, lending authenticity and depth. A vinyl record collection can instantly evoke the cultural atmosphere of the 1970s, for example. Historical objects can serve as a connection to the past, providing backstory or context. Motifs. Repeating an object throughout the story can create a motif that adds to the thematic resonance of the narrative. Motifs can be a subtle through line for readers to follow, enriching their understanding of the story. Foreshadowing. Objects can be used to foreshadow events. An overheard conversation about a lost artifact can hint at an adventure to come. Foreshadowing should be just enough to create suspense without giving away the plot. Contrast and juxtaposition. Placing objects in contrast can highlight differences in characters or settings. A smartphone in a historical setting can create a juxtaposition that's intriguing and prompts questions. Chekhov's gun. This dramatic principle states that every memorable element in a story should be necessary. If you describe an object in detail, it's expected to play a role later. Avoid unnecessary descriptions of objects that don't contribute to the story. It can lead to clutter and reader distraction. Metaphors and similes. Use objects and metaphors and similes to enrich your narrative language. For instance, her eyes were as cold as the marble floors of a deserted palace. Uses an object to describe and evoke emotion. When incorporating objects into your story, always consider how they serve the narrative. Every object described should have a purpose, whether it's to build the world, deepen characterization, propel the plot, or underscore a theme. Be deliberate in your choices, and remember that sometimes the most mundane objects can carry the most significant meanings.